we're here with Dr. Laura Hobbs, and I want to get into it right away. Laura ran for, well, hopefully is running for District 2 Supervisor in the County of Shasta, and there were some interesting things that happened during her election. There seemed to be a vote difference of around 14 or so, and even though they decided they would go ahead and take a gander at the recall of Kevin Cry, they decided that yours just would be, too expensive? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, about $8,600 a day.
Yeah.
But for the recall, it was free of charge.
Oh, my goodness.
And Kevin didn't request that, so it must have been someone on the other side. I'm not quite sure.
Wow. Could we have a double standard? Anyway, Laura, if you would, give us a background on this court case you have going now and bring us up to speed on where we're at.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to have a preliminary hearing at the courthouse, the new courthouse on the 6th floor in room 64 with Honorable Judge Baker. He's going to be setting the actual hearing date. And this is a case that talks about the election abnormalities and the deficiencies in the way that the election was administered. Right now, we have a standard set by the federal government that there should be no fewer than a 0.0008% error rate, which is, I believe, less than one ballot in error in 500,000 ballots. And what we're seeing in this election is an error rate far greater, and it has primarily to do with the discarded batches. If you look at the audit log, which is a record, it's a public record that should be available for anyone to view, which although they haven't given me the complete record yet, but I have looked at the partial record and we see the discarded batches. If you, it's basically an audit log is every keystroke made, and there's about over 200,000 lines in this audit log. So every time they press a button, it's a new line in the audit log. But you can sort it by certain keywords and phrases, such as discarded batches. And that's where I found a lot of problems. There are batches that have to be discarded legitimately because there was an error in the scanning. In that case, you have the same tabulator, the same user, and the same precinct number, and it's really obvious that it's a legitimate rerun. But then there are these batches that appear to be generated due to a duplication in the batch number, and they have different users, different tabulators, and different precinct numbers.
Well, you talked about the error rate being 0.0008%.
Yep.
And how many discarded ballots were there? Number-wise, approximately that are in play here?
For District 2, there was 729.
Wow. Okay, so that's a little bit higher number than 0.0008.
Yeah, and for the whole county-wide, if you look at the percentage, it's about 10%.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how did the ROV office justify this? I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but how in the world can they justify this?
Well, the problem is they're farming the elections over to these private entities such as, Hart InterCivic, Dominion, and whatnot. And so when I asked Joanna if she had looked at the audit log before she certified, she said no, they don't typically do that. So it's become so automated to the point where there's checks and balances that are not being conducted. And this is a real problem for us. Yeah, for us that want, fair and accurate elections.
Then this is part of the court case that we'll be discussing, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. What? Now you have some exciting news about who you're being represented by.
Yes.
And you want to share that with the folks.
I'm being represented by Alexander Haberbush. He's renowned in the field of election law, and I'm quite honored to be sharing the same lawyer as John Eastman, who is the lawyer who represented President Trump.
Yeah, Alex Haberbush is quite a guy, lead attorney of the Rex Institute, yeah. And looks like Polly is also helping in this. I did see her name on the case, and it seems to me as if you've got some very, very prominent and very, very good attorneys on your side here. Lex Rex is great, and they have a great staff. They're great people, and this is impressive. What is the main thrust of the case in regards to what's the thing you really want to hit home on? I know it can't really be in a nutshell, but what's one of the main things you really want to hit on here to expose? I mean, obviously the corruption alone, just in 729 ballots being discarded just in your district in a small county. Anyway, go ahead and give us enlighten us on where this is going and where the real strong points are.
Right. Well, just first of all, I feel like a lot of people who work in the elections, the volunteers and the temporary employees and the actual employees themselves, they may not even be aware that this is going on. They're trying their best to do it honestly, I feel like, for the most part. I feel like that not everybody who's participating in this process is aware of what's actually going on behind the scenes. And that's the problem with all electronic voting machines, is it's a big black box. Nobody could see with their own eyes how the ballots are being tabulated. And what we know is that the elections process by law should be a public process. And that's not what is happening. And it, even worse than that, they're actually making it so that it's even harder to observe. So average individuals who want to go there.
That a little bit. There's a lot of people. I've been hearing a lot more about that from other counties in the state. That's changed on the how close you can stand and stuff. Explain to people how that
right.
works.
So for COVID, they tried to make it you had to stand 6 feet away for COVID. Well, now they're using that emergency situation, or so-called emergency, and they're trying to roll that out everywhere as the standard. They're even making new laws in Sacramento, surprise, surprise, to make it so that it's harder to observe elections. But right now we still have some election observer laws in place, like 104, I believe is the one, where you're allowed to see the ballots and the signatures thereon. That was not given to us in this election nor in the previous elections, because they are keeping the ballots in a separate room. You're not actually allowed to be in the same room as the ballots. You cannot see the ballots themselves or the envelopes. And this type of situation makes it so it's no longer a public process. It's no longer something that ordinary people can witness and observe. And that's the crux of the problem.
If the county has already expunged, or got rid of, the emergency order, do they have any jurisdiction over the ROV office saying, hey, we don't have to have this emergency situation in place because we've already had this expire? Is there any jurisdiction at all the county has over any of this state business?
Well, the county absolutely has jurisdiction. It's up to them to set the manner in which elections are conducted in this county. And that's election or government code 25201 that affords them that. And it also says that they are allowed to canvass the election. And canvass is defined as a public process of processing and tallying all ballots received in an election. And that is granted to the county governing board. Also, Election Code 19207 grants authority to adopt any kind of voting system or combination of voting systems.
Wow.
So, Alexander Haberbush actually wrote a manual explaining how hand counting can be considered a voting system.
Oh, and he's your attorney.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's an interesting point, because it seems as if our county, especially with the majority of the board we have right now being conservative, it's surprising to me that they haven't stepped up and done anything about this. For the life of me, I keep trying to wrap my head around jurisdiction. Who has that? I mean, well, if the county has jurisdiction, they have jurisdiction. So what the hell? All right. So at what point, and like Kevin was talking about this morning on his program, I mean, at what point is the county do you understand your illegal subsidy, according to Article 11, Section 1 of the California Constitution, not as was said in the in Reynolds versus Sims, a Supreme Court case, that the county is a political arm. It's not a political arm. Mm-hmm. For one thing, political is too, that can bounce from one way to another. It could be anything. And so the counties, I think the program previous to this one said the same thing, really needed to stand up. And Laura, you're standing up on this. Now, I got a couple of questions about this. So basically, where does the corruption really begin? I mean, maybe that's got to be something in this case. Where does that corruption begin? Because as you said, the rank and file is kind of just, going along and maybe even naive at some of this stuff. So where does this real corruption, and this is corruption, this is total outright corruption. I mean, the simple fact that 10% of the balance got discarded, that's insane. Mm-hmm. So anyway, where does this corruption really start? Are you feel comfortable in talking about that?
Well, I don't know the ultimate head honcho in this scheme, this RICO scheme, where there's multiple people involved. But at the minimum, at the bottom line, the ROV who certifies the election has to state that they know that these are true and correct. So they need to be able to go through that audit log and see and actually verify with their own eyes that what has been produced by the machine is true and correct. So there's so many levels to this. But I think I wanted to just kind of go off of what you were talking about previously. The California Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, states that all political power is inherent in the people, and the government is instituted for their protection, security, and benefit, and they have the right to alter or reform it when the good may require. And this is one of those cases where the good does require us to go against certain laws, such as AB 969. And California Elections Code 19001 says the real will of the electors will not be defeated by any informality or failure to comply with all provisions of the law. So it's actually written in elections law that we don't have to follow all the election laws, hence AB 969.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we just don't understand the power we have as the people.
Exactly.
Again, everything you're bringing forward, it seems, I don't know, to me it's a little bit strange because it seems as if our Board of Supervisors, at least the majority, maybe even more, would adhere to and really want to dive into this. And it doesn't seem like there is enough play, or maybe it's just, is it down the totem pole for them? I mean, without representation, nothing else matters. What say you?
I say the people of this county need to put a lot more pressure on the Board of Supervisors. I feel like there's a deficiency here and things could be done better. Our board should be responsive to the people here in Shasta. And right now, the majority of people in Shasta want hand counting. In fact, a lot of them think that we're currently hand counting right now. They don't realize.
A lot of people think that.
Yeah. And so we need to spread the word for people to know and to get up and stand up and be a presence, at the Board of Supervisors meeting saying, this is not right. We need hand counting now. We can't let this go another day. We have an election coming up in November, and we're tired of seeing the same results every single time of manipulation by the computers stealing our voices.
Well, the next Board of Supervisor meeting is at 5:30, and I want to say it's Tuesday night, next Tuesday. Is that right, Wynn?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're looking at 5:30 next Tuesday night, and I think they're going to discuss some of this stuff. Hopefully they will. I'm a little bit miffed over where you get the opportunity to speak at the Board of Supervisors. If you don't put your card in ahead of time, you can't go into public comment, and I understand that. I mean, it's not that I don't like the format. In the fact that if you have a couple of regular calendar items, those should be done first, and people can speak to those because they are important, and I get that. But I mean, even the previous program is all about representation and freedom and liberty. I mean, they're talking about rolling around this thing about a 1-cent sales tax, which we'll talk about after the break. But
well, one thing too is that you guys have both been talking about it. The Board of Supervisors is the executive and legislative body of the county. Now, what does that mean? It means a lot. There's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of things that they can do, and exactly what you're talking about. They can not comply with that 969 garbage, right?
Yep.
So they can do these things, and they can give directive to the ROV, and they should give directive to the ROV, and they should stand firm on that directive. Now, are they going to do it? I don't know. I would hope, and I would hope they would do it sooner than later, because if they don't, then it's all for nothing. And so what I would encourage people to do is to email the Board of Supervisors. If you can't be at the board meeting, you choose not to be at the board meeting, don't want to be a public speaker, then be on record. Email it. That is part of the public record. That will be there for eternity. So email it to them. If you want people to speak on your behalf, if you know of people that do speak and are willing to do that, let them know that too, because they allow that to happen occasionally. Because people will get up and speak and say, hey, I'm here to speak on behalf of John Q. Public because they couldn't make it, what have you, and they read whatever that person had written. And so they allow that to happen. So those are the kind of things that need to happen. And I do question why they require you to submit the request to speak earlier, because all they were trying to do is control all the nonsense that some of these people have been doing. That hasn't been controlled at all.
No.
It has, if nothing else, it's just allowed them to have more of a footprint on what's going on, because they will play that game and keep putting all their stuff in there. And we have people that are going to speak forever that are going to just get up there and ridicule the board on every single topic and issue and come across as if they're the know-it-all on all these issues. And it's very frustrating as you sit in the boardroom. You hear the same people speaking over and over and over again about nonsense. And then they don't stick to the topic, and they don't have any good information to share.
Well, I think that Laura made the point. That was the point we were trying to make at the beginning of this, and that is that where are you able to voice this in the meeting that is recorded? Because public comment is a bunch of everything everywhere.
Right.
You have to get into public comment either a card the night before, so you can speak before they go to the regular calendar, or during the morning public comment. Here's the way you solve it, I think, and I want to bounce it off you two. Here's the way you solve it. You put forth to someone friendly. Kevin Cry would be the perfect person. You put toward Kevin Cry, and if you're listening, Kevin, this is something you may want to do, because you have control over the agenda as the chairman of the board. Put on for discussion only the situation of the ROV office and the rights of the people and the power, as Wynn just expressed, of the Board of Supervisors to control a situation that obviously is showing forms of corruption. Okay? So if you put forth that on a regular calendar item, people can get up and speak to that, as you're saying, Laura, and voice their opinion and have that opportunity to do it, and put that first. Put that first, because it takes away from somebody getting up there and telling you you're going to jail and all the other stuff that goes on in there.
Right.
It takes all that stuff away, because it's not public comment anymore. It has specificity. So if you put on there, and you don't have to have any action, you can put on there simply discussion only. And that will give, as you're saying, Laura, as you're saying, Wynn, the opportunity for the public to tell them what they think.
Yeah, well, that's part of what the Elections Commission was about, was to have this kind of pressure release valve for the community to come and speak and tell other members of the community, because the commission was made up of community members, what they were observing in the elections, what was going on, what they wanted as far as representation. But right now that is at a standstill until Kevin Cry appoints somebody. They don't have a quorum.
Yeah, but it's still not the same as the Board of Supervisors.
It's not the same, and that's the other thing I wanted to make a note of is, they don't have jurisdiction. They can put forth recommendations, but they don't have the jurisdictions to change anything. So I've gone, I think, at least 3 different public comments I've not been able to attend, even though I arrived on time. The reason is because they push it to the end, And there's so many things, like you have to have your comment card before the agenda item is called, or you have to have your comment card and right when the meeting starts. And a lot of people, they have real lives to lead.
That's why you got to have it on the regular calendar.
Yeah.
It's got to be there. It's the only place you can put it. You've got to put it as a discussion item only. It should be R1, okay? Not R2 or R3. It should be R1, and then that gives that opportunity. And it has specificity.
Yeah, and the fact that they're not doing public comment until much later also inhibits a lot of discourse. So you should listen at the end of the night when it comes to public comment. He's reading off all these names of cards of people who are no longer in the audience because they had things to do, they had places to go. So all of those people had their, opportunity, but they didn't have their opportunity because the way it was scheduled and
if they have it on a regular calendar item, they have an opportunity that can't be denied. They also have an opportunity to talk about what we're talking about here and saying, hey, you guys need to take control of this. How come you haven't taken control of this? They have that opportunity during that regular calendar item, whereas in public comment could be 1,000 different subjects.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying it'd be good if Kevin puts this on as a regular calendar item, R1 or R2, in the fact that, hey, we need to set forth a policy in Shasta County. And since we have the jurisdiction under 25201, we have that jurisdiction as a Board of Supervisors. We need to put this forward. What say you, public? We want to discuss it.
Yeah.
That's what you do, and then that's how you solve the problem, because you won't have all this other minutia in there.
Agreed.
Good point.
So that's the whole point. So, Kevin, if you're listening to this, or Patrick, if you're listening to this, or Chris, or Mary, or Tim, we need to put this on the ballot, because you guys have control over this. You can't dodge that. So let's get it on there as an R1 discussion only. You don't have to make a choice. You don't have to make a decision.
Well, I feel like some of the board members are fearful that the state's going to come down on us, and I think we're at a situation where the state's going to keep writing these laws that are not in our favor, and we cannot comply our way out of this. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just follow this law for right now because that's the law at the moment. We're not going to win doing that. We need
to have a resolution by the Board of Supervisors. A resolution with an ordinance.
With an ordinance, yes.
So the resolution with the ordinance, and the resolution needs to be a binding resolution. Binding resolution with an ordinance that will simply state that the Shasta County, being a legal subsidy of the state of California, shall no longer oblige any state law or acknowledge any law enforcement action using state law that is unconstitutional, using the basis as the United States Constitution and the California Constitution. So therefore, we will not submit to this or comply with it. That's what the Board of Supervisors needs to do, and that's where they grow up here. And I guess we got to take a break, huh?
Okay.
It's looking like it. All right, so with that, we will be back here with Laura Hobbs. Time has come.
For 51.
Let's get it done.
Amen.
Welcome back, everybody. Win Carpenter and Terry Rapoza, Jefferson State of Mind. If you have a comment or a question, 530-605-4567, 530-605-4567. We're here with Laura Hobbs, who hopefully will continue to run for District 2, and in kind of buttoning up the court case that we've been talking about, if in fact the judge rules in your favor, what exactly happens? Go ahead and explain what that would be like.
Okay, well, we have a couple of different prayers for relief in this. One of them is to say, hey, why don't you just let both of the top two contestants go on to November? And then we'll decide at that point who the true winner is.
And what are prayers for relief?
That's when somebody's been wronged and they want a remedy to the situation.
Okay.
That would be what the judge would order in the final in his final judgment would be, this is the remedy to the situation.
Okay. A prayer for relief. I like that they put prayer in there. That's pretty good. Okay.
What would be the other one?
So the other one, we have three lists, the three main one is annul and set aside the declaration of the election and any certificate of election previously issued to defendant Alan Long. to vacate the results of the election, order a runoff. That's the one I just mentioned. And then in the alternative, vacate the results of the election and direct that a new election be conducted for that race.
That would cost a lot more money. Rather than continuing on.
Right. That would be a little bit difficult with the main election coming up in November, the general election.
Yeah, true.
So it'd just be easier just to add your name back to the ballot or to keep your name on for the ballot for November.
Yes.
Okay. Be cheaper, be easier. It'd just be a done deal.
It'd be the right thing to do.
And be right.
Because we already found criminal activity. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. You can call it whatever you want. It's criminal activity.
Mm-hmm.
So yours is the only race that had that happen, huh?
Well, actually, I saw it in other races as well. Mm-hmm. So there might be an avenue there if this gets a favorable judgment to bring forth other cases for the other races where the same thing was seen.
Was it just happening in county races, or did it happen in state races?
You know, I know that it happened in. Well, so let's just put it this way: is that I didn't look race by race; I looked district by district. So it happened in other districts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's, we've really had a lot of enlightening things happen since 2020, and that is the real power of the boards of supervisors. So I think that's been kind of brought home to where it needs to be. Let's jump ahead a little bit. We can come back to this, but I want to get your take on some things. This morning, Kevin Cry was talking about the jail and the possibility of a 1-cent sales tax. We really don't have the money. Well, we've been told we have the money, and apparently we don't have the money. And I can understand that because, if you go back to 2020, things were about half of what they are now. If you're doing anything as far as building goes, or labor, or anything like that,
Yeah.
So, the understandability wasn't that we were deceived by anybody who was on the board saying, hey, we can get this jail done, we have the money. It's just that things went way up. I mean, who would guess that we'd have $5 a gallon gas again? Yeah. Okay, so as we look at this, the jail situation is almost a moot point. And the reason it is that if you did some sort of sales tax to that, you'd have to do it to where it'd have to have a sunset clause. In other words, you'd only pay for a certain period of time, and then the tax is over. It isn't like a tax that goes on forever till your grandkids die. Then you'd have to have a situation where you have the jail itself. How big do you make it? Because all we know is that the laws now that are being passed by the state of California are making it harder for every law enforcement officer to do their job. The minute they arrest somebody, that by the time that they're on the road again, 15 or 20 minutes later, that person's out. Back when we were talking about 2020, if you went in and stole something, you might get arrested. Now you can steal up to $900, and are you going to get a ticket? And so the insanity really is the state. It all goes back to, as supervisor, if you were to be supervisor, and Kevin, I hope you're listening, and Patrick, I hope you're listening. As going back to that, we have to understand, we have to totally stand up for the county and the jurisdiction the county has. We can no longer follow a state that is not only corrupt, but is breaking the Constitution, its own Constitution with the state Constitution, and the United States Constitution. What say you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I absolutely agree, and I oppose the 1% tax as well. I think there's got to be a better way to do it, and it doesn't matter how much jail space you have if you're not actually convicting people, if the DA is not prosecuting people,
right?
If people are being released. So I would like to know how to fix the whole system, not just the jail space,
right?
The
other trigger that people keep forgetting about is that we have the high desert prison, and apparently it's been shut down. Parts of it been shut down. The state has opted to do that. Why could the northern counties not band together and fund the operation of that, if you will?
Who owns it?
The state. See, and that's the thing. If we could get together and work with that to at least eliminate or take the state-held prisoners that we have in our counties and put them over there where they need to be. That would give us more room in our existing jail.
Would we have to get state permission?
Who knows? I have no idea.
If they own it, then they have jurisdiction over it.
I have no idea.
See, that's the problem.
But the thing is, our tax dollars are funding it.
Well, our tax dollars are funding work.
Everything.
I mean, our tax dollars fund all kinds of stuff. Our tax dollars help with crime. Our tax dollars are paying for illegal.
But we have to start the conversation somewhere. And nobody's even doing that.
I think that if we pass an ordinance on some things, I think it would do that. And as far as the counties go, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we don't try that. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to see where we go to this battle. One of the challenges we've had is we go down this road and this road and this road and this road. And we start out with 100 happy people that are ready to fight the fight. But it's a losing battle from the beginning because we haven't researched it like we should.
Right.
We send them down the road. By the time we get done and a defeat happens, you lose 80. 20 can get back up again, dust themselves off. Hey, my name is Lord Hobbs. You knocked me down by getting back up again. But that's 20 out of 100. That's not 80 out of 100. So you lose people every time.
Right.
So all the stuff that we could talk about that maybe this will work and maybe that would work, how do we make it work? And always the key to that is who has jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
Who has jurisdiction and who can interpose, and who can nullify by interposing with that jurisdiction. So what we need to do is we need to educate people. That's why I think the idea of putting things on the regular calendar, even if even if they don't have the stones or the testicular fortitude to say, okay, we're going to have this on for discussion and action, discussion only. That gives the public, on public record, at a Board of Supervisor meeting, with it being filmed, the public an opportunity to speak with specificity to there. So we have to start creating the education of who has jurisdiction, who can stand between and who can nullify, which is the same people who have the jurisdiction. We have to start that with education to strategy to tactics. Education, you get your strategy from the education that you've had, and then from the strategy from the education that you've had, you create your tactics. So it's a three-pronged thing. It isn't just stopping with, well, we need to educate people,
Well, as far as the jail part of it goes, talking about the prison, we have our elected representatives for District 1. We have our assembly person. We have our Senate person. We also have our congressional person. So if there's federal money coming into that, go to the congressperson. If there's state monies going into it and jurisdiction on that, then you go to your Senate person and you go to your assembly person. Those people have to have skin in the game, and they have to hear it from the noisy, concerned citizens who are their constituency. That's exactly where it starts, and then you have your Board of Supervisors collectively on the northern counties that are fighting for it. They get noisy towards those elected officials as well. So it all comes that direction, so at least maybe something can start happening.
Yeah, it needs to happen at the local level. And what we're finding is a lot of people are disenchanted because they've been sending letters to their senators and their congressmen till they're blue in the face. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any effect. I mean, Terry will tell us about the ratios of our representatives in each house and the Senate and whatnot. We don't have representation on the statewide level, so we need to do it locally. And I think we all need to start getting noisy and making a fuss because we, the people, have this power. We need to reclaim the power, and we need to make it known that we're aware of our rights. And if we don't utilize our rights granted to us by law and granted to us by God, then what's the point of even having them? Right. We have to all individually, in our own way, stand up against what's happening.
Exactly. Well, you're 100% right. And I think that this Board of Supervisors, I guess my question to them would be, what do you got to lose?
Right.
I mean, what do you got to lose? Okay. Exactly. I mean, come on. I mean, basically, we have a situation here where we can start turning this thing around. And it has to be done like now. No more about, well, we need to have discussion on this or that or the other. Understand what your jurisdiction is and interpose. Stand between. In essence, no time like the present. There isn't a lot of time to wait around for all this stuff.
That's right.
Or wait around to see what's going to happen here or what's going to happen there. Mm-hmm. We don't even know how our assembly person is. Well, I mean, she's ill or was ill. I'm sure she's recovered. But she had a stroke. Is that what happened to her?
Yeah, she had a minor stroke. So she's doing much better now.
She's doing better. Okay.
Doing better now.
Okay, so she's doing better now. And then you have our congressman, who's always wanted to stand up for, at least in appearances, for liberty and to stand up for things. But I mean, if the state owns the prison and it's not a federal prison, that would be the first place to start.
Right.
Who owns the damn thing?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if anybody knows, you call in 605-4567, 530-605-4567. Who owns the high desert prison? Okay, so we have. Okay, I think that says
Stones.
Okay, it's Richard.
Hey, Rich.
Okay, Rich, how you doing, man?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Wow, great show. Good reminder of constitutional rights, and don't ask permission. Just do it. We have to take back our rights and not ask permission from the state, who keeps making the box smaller and smaller and smaller. Mm-hmm. Remember what happened in Star Wars when they were in the trash compactor, right? If they didn't get out of the trash compactor with the walls closing in, they're going to die. Well, guess what? We have to do the same thing. We've got to break out of the trash compactor that is the state government, and then passing laws continuing to push the walls in on us. But, yes, the county board of supervisors, unfortunately, I think they're not brave enough. I'm going to say it. They're not brave enough to fight the state, and that's unfortunate because it's money, right? Remember, Turncoat Tim a few months ago at the board said, "Well, we spent $19 million on legal fees already," and then I asked him to come back with some breakdowns on which board of supervisors caused such legal bills, and of course he has not done so. But at what cost? Is it a cost? Is it too much of a cost for a fair and transparent election? Is there too much of a cost to fight the state to reassert our rights and take our rights back? I mean, what's the cost? Or how much is too much to do that?
Well, you're right about all that, Rich. And the thing that's really crazy is they've got jurisdiction over a lot of this stuff. That's the worst part. If you've got jurisdiction over it, then why aren't you doing something about it? If you want to stand up for that, I mean. Again, what do they have to lose? I mean, what do they have to lose?
Well, and when we do exercise some sort of legal right or privilege, call them what you will, the next year the state passes a law and then takes that away from us. So, I mean, when are we going to figure this out? Like Laura said, we can't live in this box. We can't do it. We have to break the walls down and say, we're not going to comply anymore. County official, county business, county election, county property, county funds, and did I say county? Just take control of the county matters and take the rights back that the state has taken from us over the last multitude of years. But in the state, again, there's a current election law pending to prohibit voter ID. That's in retaliation of the city of Huntington Beach. There's another election law on pending right now to stop the registrar from maintaining new citizen voter registrations. So that'd be a new citizen or a new resident voter affidavits is what they're called. So again, the state continues to eliminate the paper side of the elections process, with the exception of the ballot, but everything else, all the other records. The state is very quickly now, every year, eliminating the paper side of the records. Guess what? That was just with the electronic records. Can you say hacking? Can you say manipulation? Can you say, we're going to hold on to the capsule record and the audit log for 8 weeks after the certification? Gee, what are they doing with those electronic logs right now? I mean, I can go down the list. We have to just stop complying, and we just have to take it back. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, our current board, they don't appear willing to do that at the risk of a lawsuit. Are you kidding me? Anyways, I've opined enough. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, Rich makes some great points. Thank you, Rich. He made some great points, and just what he said just now was probably about 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. If there was a regular calendar item on what we've been discussing, mm-hmm. Rich could have said what he just said in 3 minutes in the regular calendar item, and it wouldn't have gotten lost in public comment.
Right.
It would have been the specificity. So as long as we look at jurisdiction now, who can interpose and who can nullify, right? The 10th Amendment, right?
Yep.
The 10th Amendment's very simple. Anything that is not delegated to the government of the United States is reserved to the states or the people. Why is or the people in there? The word delegated means you're giving temporary responsibility of something you own, which means the state is the higher power over the government. And the word reserved means you own that, so you can give that away. You have the authority to give that away, the jurisdiction to give away something that is reserved to you. And if the state doesn't do it, that's why or the people is there, because the people can do it. People keep saying, well, everything they're doing is against the Constitution. Well, then use the damn thing. Mm-hmm. Use the damn thing.
That's what it's for.
That's what it's for. And there's 3 laws that you can use in the United States Code. 3 of them. And they're only a paragraph. And we teach this, and we're going to be teaching this. And we've been teaching this down south. And I know what it's like to stand on the border and look at the border and see what's going on, being right there, being driven there.
Mm-hmm. So
we have
name
to start,
those 3 laws.
If we're to be we the people, let's start acting like it. Like Laura Hobbs is acting like it.
Yeah.
She's acting like it. That's what we have to do, is take it back. Rich is acting like it. We need to act like who we are.
Yep.
And we need to be who we are. And we aren't being who we are. Mm-hmm. Jimmy called in the previous program this morning, and it was very good. Jimmy has always stood for liberty. Jimmy is standing there. It's like, what the hell is going on? And are we going to allow this? We have the power. We have the 10th Amendment. I can go on, and I will not. But Laura,
yep,
I think that this is a case that's not only winnable, but I think if this case is lost, it's got to be corruption if it goes any other way other than you staying in this race. What say you?
Well, I have faith that Justice Baker is going to do the right thing here and side in our favor. I think the case is very compelling. It's online if anyone wants to take a look. You can go to Lex Rex Institute, and they have it posted there. The full case, the full 64 pages, and all the exhibits. So I think that this is not just a matter of my race and District 2 and Shasta County. It's bigger than that. It has to do with our ability to have our voices heard and to have our votes counted accurately and fairly, and to buck off the oppressive system of the state and the electronic voting machines. So this is going to be big. It's going to be huge. It involves way more than just me.
Hey, okay, now we have a caller calling in, and we should take this one as well. Good morning, Janet. How are you? Hello, Janet. Are you there?
I am here, yes.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I just have one comment to make. Folks, have you had enough? Is it time? Are we ready to actually do something about a broken state?
Great.
And I think that what we need to do is separate from California. It's unfixable. We cannot do anything with it. Let's go.
Amen.
There is
we need to do that yesterday.
Yep, we need to do that yesterday. Mama
so
Jefferson.
Let's take a resolution to the board requiring them to stand up and declare that they will, in fact, abide by all of the laws in the Constitution of California and the federal Constitution, which they should be able to do easily, and then have them declare that since the state of California is broken, we are going to declare that we will take back our government with a new state.
Yep. Amen. Amen.
I know somebody who could write that resolution.
Maybe I'll get on that.
That's what I was hoping. Mama
Maybe
Jefferson.
I will come up with a mission statement declaring those very concepts.
Fantastic. We'll be looking forward to that.
I'll put it with the state of Jefferson Constitution.
Okay, when you come up with a mission statement, is it okay? Is it wise for us to share it with everybody?
I think it would be very wise.
Outstanding.
It's a beginning. Let's let people know where we stand and where we intend to go from here. And it's not enough just to take a stand. You have to move forward.
Right.
That's right.
one foot in front of the other after you have stood there and declared, and then you move forward to the ultimate solution, which is a state separation.
There we go.
Probably 4 states, and that's something we're doing podcasts on, and we will get into that.
Yes.
That's it. And as far as Laura and her fight go, in the state of Jefferson Constitution, there are no machines. There are paper ballots, there are hand counts, and there are observations from the electorate to make sure that it's a fair election. And there's voter ID.
There you go.
Great.
Love you, Janet. You're awesome.
We keep it simple, right, Janet?
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
That's right. Keep it simple. Talk to you guys later.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you
Janet.
so much. Now, next week, are you going to have Chris and Patrick on?
Yes.
Okay, so next week, folks, Wynn is going to have Patrick Jones and Chris Kellstrom on. I'd make a suggestion, and I think, could I make the suggestion?
Well, we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes.
Yeah, we got.
Well, the reason that the thing that I want to do, that I would like to see, I think a lot of people would like to see, is you pose these questions to them about a resolution, and pose the question to them about, hey, what do we got to lose? What's going on? What are you guys going to do? What are you going to put forward? Mm-hmm. I think that it's like, and that's the thing. This morning when Kevin was saying, the problem is a lot of people don't like to rock the boat.
The boat has been capsized.
Boat sinking.
Exactly.
It's sinking, yeah.
Exactly. And as
there's no
Ben
life
Franklin
preserver.
said, those of you who are fence sitters, as Ben Franklin said, because most of the homes during the Revolutionary War and during that time were they had picket fences around them.
Yep.
And that most fence sitters become impaled. And I think the situation is, we're starting to look at that now. You can't play both sides against the middle. I know that, I think that 4, maybe 5 states are something we've been talking about. There's a 2-part series on Mountaintop Media. You can go to Rumble and find it. The Solution for Liberty is what they're called. And, if you watch it on Rumble, you will see, real, feasible, and real actions that are being taken to bring back our liberty. So, Laura, we have about 3 minutes left. Do you want to bring us home on what you'd like to talk about?
Well, again, it's we the people taking our government back, so we all have to get involved in any way we can, telling our neighbors, telling folks. One thing important that I want to mention is that in the upcoming election, I want people to boycott the envelope. I want you to vote in person with a precinct ballot. Don't use an envelope. Don't drop off your ballot at the precinct. You need to use the precinct ballot. That's one of the ways that we can fight against the cheat that's happening right now with the mail-in votes. And I also want to encourage people that this litigation that we're doing is expensive. It costs money. It takes a lot of time. So if you wish to donate, please go to my website, which is votelaurahobbs.com. Vote Laura Hobbs, LauraHobbs.com. And that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. One last thing here. When you talk about voting with the at the precinct, what do you do with your mail-in ballot? You get a ballot that's mailed to you.
Leave it at home. Throw it in the trash. Do whatever you want.
And tell them you want a new one.
Yeah, you just go and sign in, and they'll give you a precinct ballot.
Why can't they just use the one they mailed to you?
Well, the problem is when you put in an envelope, they have to go through a whole checkpoint, signature verification. They have to have ladies sitting there opening them. It takes days. So if it's already out of the envelope, it'll be, if you boycott the envelope, your vote will be counted that night. If you turn it in an envelope, it may be counted weeks later, depending on whether or not your signature is challenged.
I got it in the mail.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, I got it in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
It's in an envelope. I don't take in the envelope. I just take in the ballot.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I use that if
yeah,
I just
you could
take
do
in
that
the ballot?
as well.
I don't have the envelope. I
Yep.
just have the ballot.
Yep. Boycott the envelope.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, so if you take it out of the envelope and you're just taking it in there, it's the same thing as them giving you a blank one there.
That's right. So you could do it either way. So bring whatever you do, just boycott the envelope. That's what I'm telling folks.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
That's awesome.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Well, I think that I really think that there are changes that are going to start to happen here in Shasta County,
I hope so.
and I hope that we have a situation here that the Board of Supervisors does stand up, and Sal and I will be listening next Sunday. It's going to be interesting. I hope that Patrick and Chris, I know that they're patriots and they're both conservative, and they both really have in mind what's best for the people in the county. And if Kevin gets on board there, and, you know, Tim, I don't know what's wrong with you, but anyway, maybe we'll come around here and understand we have to take our liberty back.
I hope so.
That's right.
So with that, thank you, Laura, Dr. Laura Hobbs. Thank you
you
so much for everything you've done and the hard work you do. And time has come, my friend.
For 51.
All right, let's get it done.
Amen.